Hello everybody, welcome to my studio. My name is Natifa. I'm just going to walk you all through how I created this envelope. I'm using some distress paints in carved pumpkin. I'm also using craft stock paper, the distress line of papers. I wanted to use this to create the base foundational piece for my snowman. I wanted the buttons and their eyes to be orange, and so I had to kind of use the base in the color that I wanted. So that's what I'm using here. Using my die cutting machine to die cut those out, and then I'm using my my die cutting machine again to cut out with craft stock the front of the snowman. So there you go, you have it now. You can see the orange buttons. I'm just trimming around the snowman to kind of cut out the excess craft stock that I painted orange. So for this one, I wanted to kind of create like a witchy snowman, and so the hats for these, the Stump and Twig die set was not going to work. So I had to kind of figure something else out. But I wanted to use that same paper for their scarves, and so that's what I did there, because they're still snowmen, even though they have kind of Halloweeny scarves. So I was just sort of testing out the hats. Again, I ended up really wanting to do a witchy type snowman, so I didn't really care for those hats that much, but I decided to move on, and I have their scarves going here, just sort of gluing those down. I found those hats out of the sticker book that Tim Holtz sells for Ideology Halloween from this year. They had some really cool witchy hats in there. I thought it'd be perfect for the snowman hats, so that's what I ended up using there. So I'm also using sort of like I was kind of distressing the portion of the scars, which didn't really end up mattering in the end, because I am going to use a pen on that because I wanted it to be a brighter color. So there's that. I'm just using some collage medium to secure their hats onto their heads. So I'm still cutting out another snowman because I really wanted this to be kind of a party. Like the snowmen were having a party, and then they had an uninvited guest, and so I'm cutting out the extra body, and I'm cutting out the arms of the snowmen. This die set is really interesting because it gives you like a bunch of pieces that the snowmen can kind of be facing various directions, and so you kind of are not just stuck with one direction. You can kind of be facing up, down. With the noses and the arms, you can kind of have them facing a bunch of different directions, which I think is really unique for this die set, because typically they're always just facing one way. So I'm using a Tombow permanent tape to tape all of those down. I also am trying again to kind of see if I left that hat, but I ended up just didn't like it, and I kind of just wanted to use the witchy hat. So I'm going to go in here now, and I'm going to draw out a square. I'm using the T ruler to kind of give me really straight lines to draw out a square of where I want my snowman, kind of the background. So the snowmen are going to be on the outside of the envelope, and then inside the envelope there's going to be like a little scene. Which is like something that I really love to do. So I'm just sort of cutting that square out, and I think I made the square like from the edge of the envelope down was like 0.75, like a 3/4 of an inch in. So I'm just using a craft knife to cut that out, and now I'm going to paint this envelope. So I'm using kind of Halloweeny colors, which is really black soot and hickory smoke paint. And I'm using water to kind of like just add some dimension to it. Hickory smoke paint, distress paints, black soot with water is super yummy for Halloween. But I'm also using some sprays, some distress oxides in the same colors, because I really love the splattery effect that it gives it. And so if that's something that you're interested in playing around with, I would encourage you to. But make sure you add some water in there, because water and all those mediums just equal really yummy goodness. So hopefully you'll get a chance to play with those as well. So now that I'm done, I'm kind of like just adding some more splatter because I didn't think I had enough, gotta add more splatters when you can. So I'm gonna start, once I glue this down, I'm gonna start putting together my piece. And so I'm kind of putting the paper I'm going to use as a backdrop in there. I'm still cutting out some hats for my snowman because again, I didn't really love those the snowy hats, the wintry hats, because it's not very Halloweeny. So probably for winter, but not for Halloween. So I'm just sort of cutting this little slit in here and kind of putting their heads on. I'm again securing those with collage medium so they stay put. And then I'm sort of just starting to build this piece in. So I found this moon in my baseboards from one of the ephemeras that Tim Holtz sells. I think it's a baseboard one, and I thought it was really funny. It was like the snowmen were having a party, and they, you know, they're enjoying themselves, and here comes this random moon, whose name happens to be Murray, and it's like, okay. So I'm kind of playing with that. But this is the stamp set that I'm using, Unraveled. It's a new Halloween stamp, and I wanted to use it for the bats. I really love the bats, and I wanted the bats to kind of be in the background like they were flying away. So I'm going to stamp this down. I'm going to be using my Distress Archival ink, and I'm going to show it to you in a second so you can see exactly what I'm using. It's permanent and it's great. So that's what I'm using here. And I really wanted this to be kind of vibrant, so I'm going to stamp this down. Then I'm going to use my embossing powder because I wanted it to be more like a vibrant black. And so as you can see, once that embossing powder goes onto the bats, the stamp, and you emboss it, it comes to life. So there's that. So I'm really loving how this is looking. And I'm going to start securing my pieces down. I'm using some dimensional foam tape here. In white. I have not found the black ones yet. I don't know where people find these, but I'm gonna keep looking for them until I find them. But I'm gonna start securing this down, and I kind of, did the foam tape all along the edge of the snowman, so they would kind of be kind of a little bit risen from the background, not like flat, flush against the background. So that's what I'm doing here. So then I found this little festoon situation. It's really fringe, but Tim called it I think it's based off like vintage festoon, and I just love that name, but I didn't really end up liking that one, so I went with another trim. It's like the glittery trim that is from the Ideology line from Halloween as well. I don't have the name with me right now, but I just wanted something kind of like party, glitter, festive, and so I went with this little trim instead of the vintage or the festive fringe. I keep calling it festoon, but it's really fringe. And so there it is. It's like, okay, perfect. This is like they're going to a party. So now I'm going to start, I cut that out, the background out. I'm going to start like actually putting my piece together, gluing stuff down, and I'm kind of just putting it all together there, and kind of securing it into place. Making sure my background actually fits inside the envelope when I fold it. That's really important. And I like it. So I'm like, perfect. I'm going to start gluing this down. And I did that, and I think I ended up cutting that flap a little bit because it was kind of off there. So next I'm going to glue Murray down and kind of like just put an uninvited guest, because Murray was not invited to this party. I don't know what he was thinking about when he showed up, but he was not invited. So that's what that is. I also distressed around him a little bit to give him a little bit more dimensions. And now I'm going to start using my pens to do some pen work. These are gel pens by Sakura, I believe is how you said that name. And I just really love gel pens. I think gel pens just give you a whole nother dimension to your pieces. And I use them a lot, quite frequently in creating my envelopes, because I don't know, I just really like them. So I tend to prefer the more neon colors for some reason. I don't know what that's about, but I just really like the neon colors. I think they're really great. So so this one actually is Moonlight and the Souffle pens. And so I will say, if you're going to do pen work, I would encourage you to purchase the size 10s from the Moonlight, because they, I feel like, give the most, I guess, consistent flow. You actually like get to see it. Whereas like the size 6 it's not my favorite. People may like it, but I really love a bigger pen tip. So that's what I'm using here. The orange on the buttons, that's the Souffle pens. It's a little bit different shade of orange. It's kind of more like a pastel-y color. whereas the actual like moonlight ones are more like neon colors. So I'm just going around all the different like edges, the buttons, you know, their hats, using the white pen there to kind of just add some dimension and some depth to all of it. And that's what you guys see me doing here. So now I decided I wanted to go back around the entire envelope and just sort of like start outlining all the edges. I don't really know why I use neon yellow. For some reason, I don't know, I just kind of went for it. And so you'll see me kind of do the entire envelope in this neon yellow color. But this is a Halloween envelope and I should have just started out with like an orange. But you know, sometimes you just sort of just get going and then you find yourself just doing things and you're kind of like, why did I do this? So I started out with yellow and I actually filled in all of the little scallops that I did there on the flap with this neon yellow color for my pens. And I just wasted my ink for no reason because, as you will see in a minute, I decided, no thanks, I don't like this color. So that's what you guys see me doing here. So I was like, oh, I'm done. Great. Let me just go back around. And I was like, oh my gosh, let me just outline this little uninvited guest sign and I'll be good. But I think one thing for me when I'm making stuff, I tend to just play around a lot too. So that's part of how I just sort of create my own thing, is I just sort of play. So decided I didn't like it. So I went back in there with some Posca marker in orange, the deeper orange color, because that definitely matches the background of this envelope much better than the neon yellow. Clearly you can see that. And so I'm just using this marker and kind of filling it all in. And kind of going back over to make sure it covers all of my neon yellow. You want to be careful with these pens. Have some, you know, paper nearby or paper towel nearby, because they sometimes when you push them down, they'll just kind of fall out. The ink will just sort of flow out, and you're stuck with this like mess on your finished work. So be really careful if you're going to kind of push the tip down to get more ink flowing. Do it off of your work and away from your work, because it can get really messy sometimes. So I took a smaller Posca pen in black, and I'm going to just draw some little bubbles inside of the scallops. I have done this before in other envelopes, and I just love the way it looks. It's super beautiful in white as well, but this is a Halloween envelope, so we're going to do it in black. So I'm just going to go through and draw just various sizes of circles, which are kind of like bubbles inside of the scallops. And that's what you see me doing here. So I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to use my gel pens again to just sort of add some stippling effects to this the snowmen, because I just think it adds some depth to them and they look really fantastic to me. So I really like them. I really love when they're like just sort of festive. I love this technique. I don't know what it is about it, but it just adds magic to whatever I'm working on for some reason. And so that's what I did there. And then I'm just adding some more details to the hats with a white gel pen as well. And I'm going to add some arms to them. And then I'm going to take my, once I glue that down, I'm going to actually take my Stabilo pencil and I'm going to outline the noses of the snowmen, because I think it just gives a little bit more dimension. So you guys will see me grab that in a second and use that. And the Stabilo pencils are really great because they're water soluble. So you can kind of use them for that. So make sure if you want to add some depth to that, you can just use this pencil to just outline, slightly outline your noses. Don't go too crazy because they will overshadow everything. So after that, I'm done with this envelope, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.